Let's turn now to our second point. Our sin causes us to devour our brothers. Our sin causes us to devour our brothers, and this is in verses 21 through 28. Now his brothers went to pasture their father's flock near Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers pasturing the flock at Shechem? Come, I will send you to them." And he said to him, "Here I am." So he said to him, "Go now, see if it is well with your brothers and with the flock, and bring me word." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a man found him wandering in the fields, and the man asked him, "What are you seeking?" "I am seeking my brothers." He said, "Tell me, please, where they are pasturing the flock." And the man said, They have gone away, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.' So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him from afar, and before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. They said to one another, 'Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him to one of the pits. Then we will say that a fierce animal has devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams.' But when Reuben heard it, he rescued him out of their hands, saying, 'Let us not take his life.' And Reuben said to them, 'Shed no blood, throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him, that he might rescue him out of their hands to restore him to his father.' So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors that he wore, and they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty, there was no water in it. Then they sat down to eat. And looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, with their camels bearing gum, balm, and myrrh, on their way to carry it down to Egypt. Then Judah said to his brothers, 'What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelite. Let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our own flesh.' And his brothers listened to him. Then Midianite traders passed by, and they drew Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. They took Joseph to Egypt." There's a few things that's weird about this story. Joseph's at home, his brothers are at work. Kind of reminds you of Jacob and Esau. Esau was always out, Jacob was always home. We wonder why Joseph wasn't out with his brothers. He's not part of the club, that's for sure. They couldn't speak peacefully with him. I think he must have automatically made himself a loner in mentality, but there may be some laziness. He's not out working the way he should. His father wants to send him out. He's 17 years old. It's interesting, as we think about this, his father is not going to see him for 20 years. After this goodbye, at 17 years old, his father is not going to see him for 20 years. He goes out, and he's supposed to go and give a report about the brothers. He's the tattletale. He wants to make sure everything is in order. Now, Shechem comes back up in verse 17. And I think our author's doing something here. Remember, a few weeks ago, we talked about Shechem and how the Israelite sons raped that city. They devoured and destroyed that city. And here they are, standing in front of where Shechem was, talking to a man. Joseph is talking to a man in front of Shechem, and he's safer at Shechem than he is with his own brothers. It's supposed to be startling. Shechem is gross. Shechem is scary. Shechem is a great embarrassment for all of Israel. Here he is standing in front of the city they just pillaged and raped, and he's safer there than he is with his own brothers. He goes on. He goes to Dothan, and as they see him, he's not hard to miss. He's wearing a fancy coat. They see the coat coming. Here comes this dreamer. There's no, hey, there's Joseph, our brother. Here comes this dreamer. And you can see the bitterness. You can see the anger that's welled up. Let's kill him. Let's see what comes of these dreams. Joseph has really hit a chord. He's really struck a nerve with his brother. So they truly hate him to the point of murder. Let's kill him. Now, let's look at the original plan. They're going to throw their brother in a pit. They're going to kill him. Then they're going to try to go back and tell the father an animal destroyed him. That seems simple enough. But what about every holiday? When Jacob starts weeping because of his lost son. You see, this isn't just one sin. It's a gross, horrible sin. But this is going to set forth a pattern of sins, like a butterfly effect, like a huge wave of sins. This is going to start a pattern of sin. These lies, this anger, that are going to ruin the family for years. Every time Joseph is mentioned, the brothers have to put their head down. They can't comfort their father. It's impossible. To be the one that killed your brother and then comfort your father, it's impossible. This sin is going to ruin the family. The point there is that there is no simple sin. You cannot sin just once. Every sin will lead to more sin. Every lie will lead to more lies. And young children, if you start lying now, you're going to create in yourself a pattern that will destroy you. Be truth speakers. Believe the truth and declare the truth at all times. We see Reuben, he tries to restrain and rescue his brother. We see this in verses 21 and 23. He's the oldest. I assume that's why he wants to save his brother. He's not the most moral of the brothers. If we were to look back at chapter 35:22, we would read this. While Israel lived in that land, Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard of it. He's not the most moral of the brothers. He doesn't come out looking squeaky clean, contrasted to the brothers. I think the reason he wants to save Joseph is because he's the oldest. He's the closest thing we have at this point to a kinsman redeemer. He's the oldest. He's the most responsible for his brother. He's the one who will have to answer to his father. So they listen to Reuben. They throw him into a pit without water, probably a dry cistern. And at this point, it's probably worse for Joseph because he's going to die of thirst rather than die quickly. You see, there's two things that are referred to that bring about the brother's hatred. There's his dreams. They want to destroy the possibility of these dreams coming true. So they're going to kill this dreamer. Then there's the coat that symbolizes his special favor from his father. They tear it off of him. Do you think that was a friendly, easy tearing off? Can you imagine? They throw him to the ground and they just start ripping his coat off as violently as possible because they're not just trying to take his coat off, they're trying to hurt him. They want to kill him. Verses 25 and 28 really stand out the most to me. They sat down to eat. Where's the moral compass here? There's no grief whatsoever. There's no confusion about what they're doing whatsoever. They can sit down and recline at table as if everything just as normal. Only we don't have that annoying brother anymore. This is despicable. This is gross. They sit down to eat. And it gets worse. Judah. Yes, the same Judah who will be the great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather of Jesus. Judah says to his brother, "What profit is it if we kill him? What profit? What do we get if we kill him?" Let's think about the answer. What can we get out of this? What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother. He's our own flesh. This is halfway good reasoning. We shouldn't kill him. He's our brother. How about we shouldn't kill him? We shouldn't sell him into slavery. He's our brother. Reasoning has been destroyed here. Sin affects the way we think. Jealousy, envy, hatred, anger. It affects the way we think. Sin affects every part of us, so we can't even reason well. We see here the despicable brothers just caught up in their sin, not able to think. So what we have here, friends, jealousy, envy, anger, and murder. We have to realize that these are the dangerous sin that reside in our own hearts. Apart from Christ, we will all be judged for these sins, just like they would be judged from sins apart from God's grace. Our hatred leads to anger and murder. Our jealousy leads to envy and coveting, which leads to stealing. Here's the hard question for you today. Who are you envious of? I'm assuming you are envious of somebody, or you're not alive. Who are you envious of? Who do you look at and you say, I wish I could be more like them? Who are you envious of? Are you envious of other parents, other marriages, other co-workers, other co-laborers in the gospel? You see, we tend to be envious of those who are in our own sphere, in our own field. We're envious of those who are doing the same things we're doing and are like us. The brothers are envious of their brother. You see, friend, this is why I pray for other churches every morning. I want us first to remember the great kingdom work that's taking place outside, but it's also a way for me to discipline my own envy and my own jealousy. I get jealous and envious of other pastors. I talk to other pastors regularly, and I hear what God is doing in their church, and I say, I wish God was doing that in my church. I know it's sinful, and I fight against it by praying proactively that God will do more for those churches. I don't want to be the only pastor in Charlottesville. That would be too much work. But I have to make myself remember, I need to be thankful for the other brothers and sisters. I need to be thankful for the other great laborers throughout Charlottesville that I do get to fellowship with, that God is doing a special thing in their midst. You see, we typically are most envious of those who are most like us, who are in our own field. The way I fight against envying and being jealous of other pastors is by being thankful for them. I make myself thank God for them. And I trust that by doing that action, God will truly change my heart. And He does. I then not only thank God for the way He blesses them, I proactively say, bless them more. This is how we fight against jealousy and envy. We are all envious of others, and the envy comes from a lack of a divine perspective. God is the one that gives anything good. God is the one that gives everything you want to have in others. And what God has decided is that He would rather have them have it than you. And you have to be able to look up to God and say, God, you're good. God, you're wise. I thank you for the way you've given your gifts to the entire church so that we complement one another. And I pray that you would continue to bless that brother or sister. And I pray that I will be open to the way you bless me. If you're not a Christian today, know that God is perfectly good. He's a perfectly good God, and therefore He must perfectly judge sin. As a perfectly holy, just, and good God, He will punish sin. And He will punish every sin, every envy, every jealousy, every hatred, every lie. We will be under God's punishment. Here's the good news, friend. This is why we gather together, to hear the good news, because we all come together as Christians knowing we're sinners. God saves sinners. God has chosen to send His Son, Jesus Christ, to become like us in every way except for all that sin, so that He could die in our place. Jesus Christ died on the cross so that when we believe in Him, God's wrath is poured out upon Jesus and what He accomplished on the cross, rather than on us. And then God gives us His righteousness. If you're not a Christian today, be afraid of this sin. Be afraid of that envy and that jealousy that reside in your heart, and know that God will judge you for it. Know, most of all, that God will save you from it if you believe in Jesus Christ. One of the most amazing things about this story, as we haven't quite concluded yet, is that if we fast forward, we see that the brothers are about to kill their Savior. Joseph is going to save them from famine. Joseph is the one who's going to give them life. And what they're doing here is that they're about to kill their Savior. They're selling their Savior into slavery. This is amazing. The brothers are about to kill the only hope they have. And this is why Joseph is such a clear Christ figure in the larger story. He is mistreated. He is sold by those who are closest to him. And then he acts like Christ and forgives them. Even though he could justly not give them food. He could justly punish them as the ruler over all of Egypt. Joseph is very much the Christ figure here. As we look into the future. Here's when he's betrayed. Here's when he's dying on the cross. As we will see later, Joseph is the one as a Christ figure because he forgives.